Hey Santi, doing great, friend. Excited for today's episode.
I'm really excited as well. We have two very special guests today. We have Steven and Eric from the Star Atlas Econ Team. They are basically the creators of the State of the Economy report. And what we're going to do basically today is to dive deep into the report and maybe pick their brains on it. So I'm not sure, guys, if you managed to set up Steven and Eric, if you guys managed to set up the mic because you need to set up the push to talk. So if you are okay, just this is the moment to speak. If not, we will help you with to set that up. Okay, I'm assuming we need to explain the push to talk, or maybe give you. I will give you mod permissions. One sec. Okay. So Steven and Eric, you're both moderators now. So please leave the voice chat and join again, so you can have so you don't need the push to talk. Eric, I see you again. Can you speak? Just checking. Okay. I guess we're struggling here with the mics,
Can you
but
hear
yeah,
me? Okay?
yeah, we can hear you, Steven.
Oh, excellent.
Perfect, perfect. You don't need to push to talk, right? You can just unmute and speak.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect, perfect. How are you doing today, my friend?
Excellent.
Test, test.
Okay, we
Test,
hear Eric
test.
as well. Yeah, we hear you,
All
Eric.
right, I'm in. Okay, good.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So yeah, Steven, I think it's the first time that you're actually here with the community. So maybe give us like a brief introduction to who you are and what you do at Star Atlas. Just very brief, if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I joined Star Atlas in March. My background is as a macroeconomist. I used to work for the Federal Reserve. I specialize in data collection um, and economic statistics, and just really glad to be here. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Thank you for coming, man. We really appreciate it. I'm sure that the whole community appreciates it as well. So thank you, my friend. And we also have Eric. Eric, people already know you, but just a brief
Yeah,
introduction just in case.
sure, sure. I work as since March at Star Atlas Economics as the senior director, and work day in day out with Stephen on reports. And my background's different than Stephen's, where his is more of a trained economist. Mine is in banking, finance, and running businesses. So, and then being a gamer for 30 years. So a little different, but hopefully that came through in the report that we had both voices in there.
Nice. Yeah, we share some passions of some games, like you play Cities Skylines as well. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's a good game.
I wish. I mean, I love my work, but man, City Skylines makes you want to just play and play and play and play.
Yeah, just imagine a Cities Skylines with play to earn. That would be great, right?
Ooh,
Mm.
there's a next level idea.
Yeah, somebody take it and develop it. Yeah. So before we dive deep with you two guys, I have some things to share. There are some really interesting things coming to the Star Atlas metaverse. As you may know, guys, as we said in Copa, we are 4 to 6 weeks away from everything. If you know, you know. But there is a really big announcement coming that I am not allowed to say more. I'm sorry. I can't just tease it today. But you want to turn your Twitter notifications on for the Star Atlas Twitter account. That's all I'm going to say. There's a big announcement coming tomorrow, and just stay tuned. Stay tuned, because good things are coming for the Star Atlas community and the Star Atlas metaverse overall.
A new
So
ship. Cool.
Oh man, he spoiled it, Santi.
no, that was a good one,
Santi,
man. That
Santi,
was a
your
good one.
tease is so good. They're not going to want to talk to us anymore, man. They're just going to wonder what
No,
that
don't
is.
worry.
What's
I'm
that
sure they
tease?
will.
Yeah,
I'm
don't
sure they
worry,
will, man.
don't worry.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, like the weeks have been passing, right, Santi? Time is
Yes, sir.
moving, and
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
something
Time
cool is
is
coming.
just going by in the Star Atlas metaverse. I can't believe we're already like more than half of the year in. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been like what, 3 weeks since Copa? Mm,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So yeah, guys,
All right.
big announcement coming tomorrow. I'm not allowed to say more. Just stay tuned to our social media channels. Stay tuned to the Discord announcements, and make sure to turn your Twitter notifications on for Star Atlas so you don't miss the big announcement because it's coming. Something's coming. And just FYI, during this brew, we are going to use the Atlas Brew channel, not the one you find in this voice chat. So if you want to chat, basically to type, we will be reading you in the Atlas Brew chat, not in the voice chat. So that's just to be clear. And now we can start diving deep into the Star Atlas economy and the report that our two friends here, Steven and Eric, created. So we already did the introductions and everything. Maybe just say, what did you think about the report? Did you read it?
Yeah, man, sure, it has been quite a full time for me this last week and the current week, but I couldn't, let it go and read the whole economic report. And I saw many interesting things, especially regarding my beloved Ustur fleet. Usturs are killing it. Those guys are deeply engaged with our metaverse. They are buying everything. So yeah, power to the Usturs, guys. And and I have been wondering about, like where the place of Polis in all of this, because this was more focused on the ships and score overall. And I'm sure that in the future you have something similar about Polis. You guys know how I love this, how I love Polis. But
All is profit.
yeah, yeah, man. But today's a day to talk about score, about the paper that the guys released it, and I wanted to learn from the community, like how do you guys felt about this? The current state of the paper, the conclusions that we had. Is anyone on the chat has any questions for our guests today, or you guys want them to get started?
Yeah, I would say let's save the questions. Let's save the questions from the audience because I have two easy ones for them
Oh,
to get started because I'm sure the community has questions and I'm sure they will hardcore probably on the questions. So I have two easy ones for you, Steven and Eric. That if you want, I can start asking a few.
Go
But
for it.
okay, cool. So I want to know like and it's maybe important to know like what was your intent with creating this paper? Like what did you want to achieve with it?
Sure. Since Stephen will probably be answering a lot of detailed questions on there, I'll take this one on the paper. So our intention was, educate, but also inform. Um, we we see what you guys see in Web3 as a huge possibility, but what we tried to do was mature the economics in reporting, and to make sure that as a future AAA game, we are setting the standard for reporting and being open. And hopefully, you saw that this was open and honest, and it wasn't all rah rah, and it wasn't all doom and gloom. That we tried our best to just describe almost in a historical document, thinking a lot of times we thought, somebody's reading this 10 years from now, which is, this would be ancient in 10 years in the crypto world, right? But they wanted to see how we started and how we all got going in this world. And for us, it was important that it be detailed, which Stephen, as main author of this, was able to give us a lot of the detail, and then work with him I worked with him for the analysis and kind of understanding of what it meant to the economy and to Star Atlas in the future, but also right now. It's so we viewed it as kind of a simultaneous like historical document slash a way for us to establish our department, our Star Atlas brand in economics as I don't want to say definitive, but at least a foundational for Web3 economy. And then we build on that. And a lot of the reports you'll see in the next get go will be based on what we've done here in Score. So that was kind of the intent, was just to establish uh, a record, but also establish who we are as an economic team and what we intend to do in the future for our for you guys, for us internally, to make sure that we are keeping track of everything and understanding it. But that was the intent from the start, Santi.
Yeah, thank you. Very detailed answer.
And
Steven,
actually, yeah, I'd
add
like to
any
add.
thoughts, my friend? Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
I'd like to add that for me personally, it was about, when I set out to write this paper, it was about understanding how fundamental economic concepts could be actually applied to the studying of metaverse economies. Right? And so a lot of it was to both understand how score works through the Atlas wages, and actually, like in the paper, you can see that like Atlas wages or emissions are determined by the aggregate ships wage rates, game, which is captured by the employment rate, and the amount of ships that were brought into score, which is captured by the labor force. And it was really just about like having these fundamental relationships, um, and like viewing them, like viewing score not in the eyes of a metaverse game, or not to the eyes like solely of metaverse gamers, but also through the eyes of like a macro economist. And in doing so, it was also to sort of like I wanted to shape how others saw the metaverse, right? Like after you read this paper, I was hoping that the audience would view score as a real labor market, and not just the sequence of like blockchain protocols.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is
I actually think you actually achieved it because it's like a combination of different concepts, like from the classic economic world and the metaverse plus blockchain. So I think you actually achieved that in the paper. So good job, good job. Thanks for producing that for Star Atlas and the community. I have
yeah.
more questions. I have more questions. Just there any thoughts that you want to add?
Yeah, just wanted to add that this is a very important step for the Star Atlas as a metaverse vision, right? Because I don't know if you guys have been looking at it, but we are step by step breaking the barrier of Web 2 to Web 3. And to understand Star Atlas economy by what it is an economy and a system of economy inside the world within itself is really important for us, because this kind of report, this is what analysts and technicians and people that want to invest in Star Atlas, that want to, for example, establish their brands inside of metaverse, they will look at this, they will see the strength of our community. So, for example, even if we have a decline on the players' staking score, you can see that the number of ships are like three times what they were. So the community, the you guys who are here on the brew and that love Star Atlas, you guys are here. It shows the resilience of our ecosystem as a whole. And super exciting to see this not only as a intuition, but as facts that the guys analyzed it, they checked the information, they had the support of our BI team as well, and it's simply beautiful, to see this.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thanks, Jose, as always, for your words, man. You're an inspiring person,
Thanks, bro.
for real, for real. So I have more questions for Steven and Eric. Before then, this is the brew, guys. Like it's open mic, so if you want to chime in at any time. But I have one last question, and then we'll go for community questions. Again, we will keep it. We'll keep this brew super related, only related to the paper that our friends Steven and Eric published. if you don't know what we're speaking about, let me drop the paper again real quick in the Atlas Brew chat, so you can go and download it right now.
Hey,
I
Santi,
just
while you
posted it
do
again.
that,
Yeah.
I do want to interject, and I should have started with this, but Stephen and I and our team uh, are getting a lot of credit for this, but a lot of the credit goes to BI for checking some of the data with us, working through um, that's business intelligence internal. It's another department internally within Star Atlas that we work with to ensure that our understanding is correct and that the data is correct. And they were instrumental in helping us to verify the information that made it into the report. Communications, incredible work to help us get this out and make it look so beautiful and clean. Um, Legal, I know we sometimes people look over, but legal was very important. We felt comfortable with putting something out there, uh, and just senior leadership. Just you guys hear them all the time, you see them all the time. You can imagine what it's like to work with some of the great senior leaders that in our company that we get to work with, and just overall it was a team effort. And I just want to make sure, I probably should have started with that, but I want to
Yeah.
make sure that note is really hit hard.
Yeah, no, no, you're very right bringing this up, because like probably people don't realize how huge the Stratus team is, and there was a lot of help, of course, from all departments, and like special shout out to the BI team. I see Anthony here, Shashank, also Chloe, and everyone from the BI team. They are crushing it from the marketing intelligence, all the
That's right.
data. Shashank, he's a data beast. We always nerd about data together and check everything that is going on in the blockchain. So big shout out to them. Big shout out to them. And then anything else that Eric, that you may want to add, or Steven, before we move to the next question?
Just that
Well,
we won't talk about Scream, guys, just because we're not the right place for Alpha to come out, and if we say stuff as economic team, it can have some ramifications we don't want. So just we want to really, we don't do this very often, and we want to kind of focus on the state of the economy report that we put together, just so we don't get nervous and slip up and tell too much Alpha on
Okay.
accident.
Man, you are incentivize them to ask you stuff.
You're saying it's
Don't
going to
do that.
backfire? Okay.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And
It's cool. Steven, you wanted to add something?
yeah, I just want to say like it. I think like one of the major accomplishments of this paper is to actually define the statistics like that define a metaverse economy, right? And like all of these things, all the statistics that you see within the report, many of them have never been seen before, right? They're extremely novel to our project, and something like that, it's a tremendous effort, but like now that we've made this initial investment, we have the foundations for a statistics department now, right? And like we will carry this. We have all this intellectual capital now, with respect to actually studying the economy and the effects of of the broader crypto environment on the economy. And I think it really gives us, I think it really makes us a thought leader, like in the space, you know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
man, this
yeah.
is super cool. And it's actually, it seems, I don't know, Santi, if you have the same impression as me, but this summer seems to be like Star Atlas is laying down lots of important foundations, right?
Yeah.
With the, yeah, man, like the weeks are passing and lots of new stuff are being released. Interesting pattern, right?
We are just getting started, to say, we're just
It-
just warming up here.
yeah, man. I can
Start
already
summer
feel
is
my
going to be
penguins.
hot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man, my
the summer
penguins
is going to be
bones are
hot.
feeling the heat, man.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
and maybe I wanted to point out another very interesting stuff that I read on the report, and it seems that we are responsible for more than 1% of the crypto adoption throughout the world, right? It's one of the conclusions of the report, right? On December 2021,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
actually we actually brought people inside the crypto world. This is so cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, this was actually so like this part, it's like, for every line that you write in this type of paper, you have to like produce another paper behind it, to support the facts. And even by like conservative estimates, like the original number was like 1.8%, but
Yeah,
then
man.
we adjusted downwards and to be roughly 1%, just to try to be conservative. But yeah, Star Atlas did bring in new users into crypto for the very first time, and I think that's going to be, you know, I think that's a sign of a successful project, right? Like something that actually causes like new growth, right? Like relative to like stealing, you or not stealing, but like snagging users from like another project or things like that. It's really about just growing crypto adoption globally, and I think like the most successful projects will be able to do that.
Yeah, man. We are pumping the ecosystem. This is super cool.
Yeah, and that's a very strong line as well, and I love it. I love it. We contribute to 1% of the crypto growth in general. That's what it said, right?
Yeah, man. Imagine when we
Exactly.
start with our. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not get
Yeah.
started.
Oh man.
As
See,
you just
Eric,
said,
this is the danger, Eric, of coming to the
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Atlas Brew, man. You need to
yeah,
You
be
know,
yeah.
cautious.
you notice I'm just chuckling and not adding anything to it. Yeah, I'm not going to add
Yeah,
any
man.
speculation, my friend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
friend. We need to be careful. So I think it's time to let the community talk a little bit, right?
Yeah. One
Uh,
last question from my side, and it's like
oh
I want
man.
to hear the vision that they had, like Eric and Steven.
Awesome.
Like, what were you expecting when you were preparing like before preparing the paper, and how much did it change to the conclusions that you guys had? Like, what's not sure if I explained myself.
Sure. Yeah. Let me answer real quick, and then Stephen, I'll ask you to chime in because it's almost a personal question on what you expected, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, I think we were thinking that the game itself was pretty obvious, and then we wanted to see how we could view it from a different lens, right? Of an economist, or even from your perspective as your personal voyage into our metaverse here. And I'll tell you, my pleasant surprise was just how easily it translated into economic terms and business terms, and um, that we were able to start to identify things and label them. And Stephen did a heck of a job in the labeling, and kind of, you've probably seen it throughout the paper, of you've got to establish, and there was no blueprint. So it was daunting, right? A little bit, because we were doing something for the first time. But isn't that the fascination of some of this? I've done banking for 25 years, right? It doesn't change much. This is different. This is new, and so I was excited for that, but also a little apprehensive. And when we got in there and started doing the work, and especially with the talent of what Stephen brought to the labeling, it all became easy to label, measure, and then give our analysis. So those are my conclusions. Stephen, what are your thoughts?
Well, in all honesty, like when I began to write this, well, first of all, I was tasked with writing this, okay, and I just thought to myself, I thought like, where do I begin? Okay, like that's literally where I thought. I was like, where do I even begin? And then, so I didn't really know what to expect. But then what I realized was that player effort, the decision of players to keep their ships healthy with R4 is a huge driver of the Atlas emissions in score, right? And whereas like, so it's almost like just as important what players do while they're in the game than it is to actually get like new players into the game, right? And I think that like going forward into the future, like the Star Atlas production of ships, right, is finite, right? Like we know it's going to be finite. So in the ultimate in the like full UE5 version of this game, like what we're going to see is that players' actions within the game are going to be what determine like the growth, the success, and everything else. And I thought that
We
to
saw that
be
early.
quite,
Yeah, we
yeah, I
saw
thought
that
that
early,
to
didn't
be,
we?
yeah. Um, so, yeah,
Yeah, we
that's what
saw
I
that.
learned.
What I was adding in there, Stephen, to your point, is we saw that early in the data. That was one of the first things that popped was you, the players, and the decisions you were making, which it seems obvious, but it's really true, completely changed the dynamics of this economy and score. And that was somewhat of a aha moments for us and just the power of those who, which you will, but believe in the future like we believe in the future of this metaverse are have put their concentration and their assets back to work into it. Sure, there were some who left, right? We saw that. We put that in the data. There were some who didn't buy in or didn't see the opportunity. But what we found while going through this, it was maybe of an aha moment that goes along with what Santi was asking was just how powerful that user is in what will happen in the future or actually let's keep it on score what happened in the score economy in the past and you guys can extrapolate what you will from that.
Great answer, guys. Great answer. I love it. And I think it's a good moment to open the mics for the community. Remember, guys, like we're speaking about the paper. Uh, I can drop it again, but if you scroll up a little bit, you will see it. So you can download it if you haven't read it, just for more context on what we are speaking. But feel free right now to open your mic and shoot a question for our guys, for Steven and Eric. I
Good
see.
morning. I got a
Yeah,
question.
yeah. Go ahead.
This is Bohemians from Star Horizons. Good morning. In my second cup of coffee, so forgive me if I'm not hyper enough, okay? In reference to page 4, top of page 5, okay, you guys ran a very interesting table, which refers to the Star Atlas census. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, you put a census there, and then you classify the type of membership in the metaverse, in the Star Atlas metaverse, and you broke it down almost like an immigration table, right? You know, who's a citizen and who's not, at different kinds of levels, and then right on the paragraph right below the table, you put in who can vote, okay, and you came out with a number. I don't know if you remember it. 24% of the members can vote because they are the ones that meet the criteria. I always thought that voting was only for the police holders. I was corrected when I read that you also need to own a spaceship and you need to have a stake, or as you put it, employ, right?
Oh, so to be very clear, so I determine like citizenship as being so it adds to the residency requirement. So residency, like you have to be employed, right? So that means you have to be in score. But to vote, actually, all you need is polis, and all you need is polis. So you could actually vote and not be a resident of Star Atlas. Like you could just own polis and vote. Now, like that, but but I don't consider that citizenship because you're not actually involved in the gameplay and like the broader community.
Then a clarification. Then there's a sentence there on the top of page 5, the third paragraph down. Citizens have the right to vote, while residents do not, quote unquote.
Yes, that is correct because citizens have polis. Now that doesn't mean so if we look at that table and we look at polis holders, right? Anybody with a one right there, those they technically have the right to vote. So as of right now, all we have is all you in order to vote in the future. In order to vote, all you have to have is have polis, right? And I believe there might be a staking requirement for that. Um, but you don't actually have to be a citizen to vote. You can be a non-resident polis holder.
Oh, okay. So you can be a non-resident Polish and be okay. So that sentence needs to be rephrased, right? Because I understand in something opposite right here. It's not only citizens, it's only Polish holders with possibly some other requirement. That's how am I understanding it?
Yeah, Bohemia, I think they did a self-reference on the doc, they weren't taking account the Polish system, it's more like the score system. But yeah, this is something that we can look in terms of a major
Yeah. And
clause,
Polis
right?
Polis staking, we all know it's in the future, and the details will come out of that. But yeah, that's going to be a difference in the future, right? Because we're going to have the details of that released here in the future. Not putting timelines on anything. 4 to 6,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys did a great job on the paper. I haven't gone through it like really gone through the math and all the formulas you put in. I like that. But yeah, that caught my attention because that was something that I had not been talking too extensively about because you actually detail who can vote and who cannot. But I'm hearing something different. So maybe yeah, a revisit to that paragraph might be in order. Yeah. I do. Can I ask another question?
Let's
Or someone
open
else?
the mic for another person, and then we can come
Okay.
back, Bohemian.
Uh,
I see.
the mic is back to you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Thank you for the question, sir. I see Aras developer said that he has a question, so I will give the mic to Aras.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Love the job you guys are doing, and I read the document a couple of days ago, and the two tables, I don't know if you have it in front of you at page 11 and page 19. They discuss something, well, underneath the table, you guys discussed something about the XX small ships. And apparently, they have a huge effect on the economy of Star Atlas. But I didn't completely, totally understand what the effect was and if they somehow disrupted data or they affected in a way that they shouldn't. What was the problem? What is the problem? Is there any problem or not? I don't know if I'm asking the right question or not.
Yeah, you're asking the right question. So basically, like the way the economy is set up, right, is that like we have for smaller tier ships, um, for like the extra small class ships, we actually have like way more of those and extra small or the small class, right? And so like for any type of statistic that you have, it's going to greatly influence those statistics, right? And that's why like we do in table 3, for example, we actually break apart like the economic performance like by the ship's class, so that we can look at each class individually, so as to not shape the overall numbers. Um, and what we find is that just like for example, like aggregate labor hours, increased quite a bit, right? Like 49%. Well, a lot of that had to do with, just a lot of extra small ships, being continuously employed, right, and being added to the labor force, right? And yeah, so it's really it's just a note about the, kind of the composition of the statistics. I hope that helps.
Yeah, just want to be clear. Is it gonna be have the? Is it gonna have the same effect on the future of the economy as well? Do you think or not?
Uh,
That would probably be a little speculation on our part on stuff that we don't want to really talk about yet in the Scream. What I can say is that historically, specifically if you look kind of the March area, the Ooster and the air bike became very well known to each other. And you saw what we were kind of noting is just the significance of what it did to some of the data in the growth of ships numbers, and also what it did specifically to the amount of ships that the Ooster had, and you probably saw that divergence happen there, and that was by the way, that was the hardest secret for us to keep it internally, was just like how we saw that, and we're just honestly a little bit like taken aback, and we checked that number a lot to make sure that we were correct, and BI did a great job of confirming it with Steven.
Yeah, so I just want to like note that like all right, so if a capital or commandership right enters into score, like the total amount of employment hours will actually not grow that much, right? But the earnings, the total amount of like Atlas emissions will go up by a bit, right? And if we look at like the opposite end of the spectrum for the extra small ships, like if a new one of those is released, the employment hours, if you have 350,000 ships enter into the game, the employment hours will increase by if you have all of them increase, it'll be 350,000 times 24, right? And so that'll be a huge increase in employment hours, but aggregate earnings may not increase that much. They may only increase by like 1-2%. If that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you guys. Let's just pass the mic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aras, for the question. Anyone else? Just feel free to start speaking. It's open mic.
Hey, this is Signal.
Hello, Signal.
How are you guys?
Doing good, my friend. How
Awesome,
about
man.
you?
Wonderful, man. Always wonderful. Um, this isn't about Scream, and it's a little bit about tokenomics and not just score. So let me know if you get too much into a gray area. But score is a really interesting mechanism. The ability to take ships that you purchase in Atlas, generate Atlas yield, use that yield to repurchase ships. Um, and so over time, you're growing the raw assets that you have in the form of ships, even if Atlas itself is kind of diluting through emissions. How do you view score ultimately as a value proposition for creating value inside Atlas itself? And what types of things would you change to be able to tweak that to get a better return on the tokenomics? Do you think that, Atlas emissions just going into infinity is good? Did at some point you need to slow down emission rates? How do you strike the ideal value proposition for Atlas tokenomics?
Uh, Eric, do you want to do this one, or would you like me to?
Yeah, I mean, this is one where we could get ourselves into trouble, because we don't want to talk about price on Atlas or Polis. Okay, we don't want to get into speculation on Atlas or Polis. What we can say is that we believe in the long term of our game, but our economy is going to grow, and it's going to have balance, and there's going to be supply and demand. Okay, if you go back to what I said about the paper, I think even Score surprised us with the power that the users will have to make the economy what it will become. Okay, and I think that's about as far as I want to get into anything that has to do with Atlas or Polis before I kind of give you hints. Okay, guys.
Yeah, and I would just like to add to that in the score is kind of unique, right? Because Atlas emissions are actually they're completely determined by the size of the labor force, right? And then the employment rates of people like within the game, right? And if we look at like theoretically, right? If you looked at like all the ships available in the marketplace, and if all of those ships entered into score, that would be the gross, and they were all employed 100%. That'd be the gross Atlas emission rate, right? And so like Atlas emission, it wouldn't really be run away. It would actually still be constant, right? Because it would be fixed by whatever the size of the labor force was. Um, but in the future, like this mechanism will change, right? Like so, Atlas emissions will be set to a fixed curve, right? And so that like it won't matter how many ships are brought in. It will just be, it'll actually be those emissions will be distributed according to this curve. So, but great question actually. And actually, in terms of like a value proposition, I think that this type of economy, this type of, economy where what matters is like your level of effort and your like initial investment. I really like it, to be honest. So like I think that there are definitely lessons to be learned here for like future projects, and because the economy is able to react, right? Like it's able to react to the decisions of the labor force, to the decisions of players, and I think that's really important because it actually secures some like really fundamental economic relationships, right? Like when you go home, if you work like 40 hours a week, like you're gonna make more than if you work 39 hours per week, right? And if you have a fixed emissions, like that relationship actually changes. So I kind of like this model, and thank you for that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for the insights. I didn't mean to push it, too far. I was just trying to get into general philosophy about tokenomics. I appreciate your time.
Sure. Hey, Santi, I will add that I'm seeing a lot of the folks that presented on COPA, and Stephen and I did listen to all of them, and we're just highly impressed by the intelligence and creativity and drive we saw in that, but also we see here today. The questions are phenomenal, so keep them coming, guys. We'll draw the lines of where we can answer them and where we can't. So we do appreciate all the work you guys are doing in our community and the guilds, and really we're fans of yours on Twitter, and I'm Verm Dragon on Twitter, and he's Data Bro. So if you guys want to follow us, you can find us on Twitter there and interact.
Nice.
All
Nice,
right.
nice.
Awesome.
Oh, Von Cracker.
Let me ask a very simple, or I think I know, a lightweight question, I would say at the very least. So, as some people in the community observed, there's interestingly enough a little bit of alpha in this paper that does not directly relate to any economical or financial concept you're explaining. And I am very curious if you were A, aware, B, if you did it on purpose, if you were, and see if there's more where that came from. I assume you know what I'm
Yeah,
referring to, but if not, I can.
you're referring to the footnote.
Yes, indeed.
It's amazing, like how information is. I was when I wrote that, I was thinking it would just add clarity. How people, when you're looking at a ship, right? Like, and you're looking at like its performance, right? And you map it. Okay, when you map it to the median VWAPs by class, right? Like like what you realize is that for the component, like a ship is the sum of its components, right? And yeah, and I'm happy to have, like, it's a, for that footnote, it's a rule of thumb, okay? So we are not beholden to it, but it is a rule of thumb that, like, for a medium class ship with their medium components, they will have, it'll be some factor. It's not directly summable by, like, by two or whatever, from the small class to the medium class. There is some factor that's non-linear, um, that will increase its productivity. And I think, in terms of score, like, this didn't really have much. I'm not sure of the impact this had on score because of the fixed wage rates. Um, but like I think, like, in the future, in terms of like gameplay and things like that, I think that the components definitely matter, right?
100%. No, this is super funny because I know this. I mean, not perhaps exactly that question, but something I like was asked to, I think, Danny and Chip a few times in the foundation room, and they were kind of, let's say, reluctant to really go into that. And here's just as a footnote in this document, there's all of a sudden some information on how these things compare to one another. So yeah, a lot of folks found it super funny and enlightening. So thank you for doing that. And of course, I completely agree with what you're saying. I mean, that makes total sense. It was just very unexpected to see that here. But anyway, thanks for the kind words. Thanks for all the great work you're doing. And I'll give the mic to somebody else.
Some things, Fun Cracker, are just observations as well. I mean, it doesn't mean that they'll hold true in the future. So that's part of what we're trying not to say
I got
these
that.
are concrete. It's more sometimes when we're doing economics, we're just doing our observations of, oh, we found this correlation. What does that mean? What it's not saying is this is concrete. It's just saying that that was an observation that Stephen found in the data, and for us, it was just part of the data gathering and observation and then analysis that we used, and that's all. That's the reason he would have that in there.
Yeah, I got it completely. Thank you for the for providing some more context. But at least it's something, right? So, I mean, everything that Chip and Danny are sharing is also not set in stone and could change at any moment. So it's always nice to get something at least for now. So thanks a bunch. Anyway.
Bet, bet.
Thanks, Phone Cracker, for the great question. We just Hegonak just posted the footnote so everybody can have some context in the Atlas Brew chat on what the guys were speaking about in the question. So again, if anyone has any other questions, just this is the moment, guys. Just the moment.
Can I do a follow-up question on
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Go.
Bohemian, yes. On page 15, there's a table called you called it a faction of players reinvesting, and the axis, the numbers, they're actually I don't understand them. It's one of the few tables that would and there is a comment that it's not scaled correctly, right, on the footnotes, so it's understandable. Could you
Sure.
talk a little bit about that table, the fraction of players reinvesting table on page 15?
Yeah.
Good.
Thank
It's a
you.
good question because Stephen and I had discussions on whether that would be confusing or not. So Stephen, go ahead and give the explanation. I think it'll make sense after he does.
Yeah, so it's not scaled because obviously like Atlas to USD is not $2. So it's in that what is properly the actual fraction reinvesting, that number is to scale on the axes. But in order to plot like Atlas to USD, I had to like rescale it to fit the figure. But basically, like what we find is that there's going to be like in terms of like how we define reinvestment, right? Like we define reinvestment as the share of players. Not this is not like an asset like weighted thing or anything like that. It's actually the share of players that go ahead and make an initial or partial fleet deposit on the same day that they're claiming Atlas rewards. So on the same day that they're harvesting rewards or withdrawing their fleet, which is also an act of harvesting your Atlas rewards, if on that same day they go ahead and they purchase a ship and bring a new ship in, um, then that is considered to be a reinvestment activity. And so, like what's interesting about that is it's actually, you know, we try to do it in a way that like makes sense, right? And like we try to like we don't have the exact number, like the dollar volume of reinvestment, but what we can assume is that if someone is claiming some Atlas that day, that some of that is being used towards the purchase of a new ship if they are also later in the day going to purchase a ship and bring it into score.
So basically, it's a positive number. Reinvestment is positive. That's what you're saying,
Oh,
right?
oh yeah. So
Okay.
so yeah. So total. So I think it's I don't know if it's page 14 or it's the next page down, and you can see in that paragraph that so the fraction of Atlas claimers that made a partial fleet deposit on the same day since like March 31st increased from about 2.3 to 4.5%. So like we saw that like of the players that are playing in score, you know, that share of those players are increasingly making like reinvestment decisions or increasingly like uh, diversifying or expanding their fleets. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, I get it now. I get it. Thank you very much for that explanation.
Thanks, Bohemian, as always, for the question. Yeah, guys. So we continue. I think we continue. We still have 7 minutes until we reach the hour. So
Santi, can I put a question out there? Can I
Yeah.
ask the
Yeah,
community
now
some stuff?
you take the mic, my friend. Yeah, of course.
So one of the things that's interesting for us is what you'd like to see in the future. So if you have ideas on that, if you want to just provide those, not in question form, just hey, it would be cool if, because we do want this to feed your needs as well. But also, kind of on a fun for us is, how long did it take for you guys to read, and then did you read it twice? Did you have you continued reading it? It's pretty thick reading, so I just wanted to kind of get that feedback from everybody.
Oh, I can chime in.
Go for it.
Yep.
So I don't have a background in finance, though I did enjoy it in high school, so I know a little bit. But I think I read the document 1.5 times so far. I didn't finish it for a full second time, but it will happen. But it took me a good amount of time, like I don't know, but at least a few hours to get through it and really understand what I'm looking at, what you guys are saying. I was for a bunch of times checking the percentages that you mentioned in the text, and then adding up some others to see if that actually equated to indeed that total, and then I at least knew for sure that those were related. Or just a bunch of percentages that I then added up and checked in the graph where there was only a cumulative line, for example. So I was just really doing all kinds of stuff just to really understand. I mean, Prometheus in my guild is the financial guy, so it just I'm the gamer side more. So it took me a good while. And so one of the suggestions I just posted is what would have helped me a bit is if you could provide a label or a legend to the y-axis. um, I realize perhaps the program you use to create them might not support something like that directly, but oftentimes it was not entirely clear what the units were. And I know there's like a description below that sometimes shed some light on that, but not always. And sometimes the text further below or above contained the answer, but that also provided me with some puzzles here and there. Um, but in general, I mean, based on the information, there's a whole bunch of stuff I would like to see, but I don't want to go too deep into that because I need to prepare my descriptions better if I wanted to do that. But yeah, anyway, that was just the first thing that now popped up in my mind.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you for that feedback. Yeah, like yeah. So I used to create charts for the Federal Reserve, right? And like it was always like, yeah, I always try to like stuff as much as I can in the figure footnotes. I try to be as clear as possible, but it's definitely like since this is like the first go around, like having that feedback is very valuable actually. So thank you very much.
Yeah, from my opinion, this is Bohemian. Um, I rely a lot on the executive summary. I look at that and I'm not gonna lie. The first time I saw the document, I glanced at of it. I look at the formulas, I look at some of the charts, but I focused on the executive summary, and that's what I read first. And then I came back to it later on and started looking at different sections of it. I never sat down and read all of it in one sitting, so I'm kind of catch the big sense of it, and little by little I go micro as I dig down into it. But the executive summary is, I think, is that's the most important one, and it kind of gives me a sense of what you guys are shooting for in the paper. I love the math; it's always great. You know, um, so it's great that we know how you guys are calculating things, and that's awesome. Um, so that's my approach. I look at it from a very high high view, and then I dig down little by little as information and comments begin to leak in.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, feel free to post these suggestions in the Atlas Brew chat because we can read them after as well. I'm reading them right now.
I have one question.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, considering it's in the for future, considering that as we all know, guilds and decks are really one of the maybe the most important factor in startless metaverse. Considering that their economy and their actions are going to affect the whole metaverse. Do you guys think that after guilds are included and they do their own things and they have their own economy and they have their own growth, do you think you can still keep track of the economy of Star Atlas metaverse, or what should we expect? Isn't it gonna get like super complicated to handle?
That's a great question.
It's a very
Eric,
good question.
Eric, do you mind if I tackle this one?
Go for it. Go for it, man.
Okay. Yeah. So after attending Copa, okay, it's become very clear that guilds are fundamental to this economy, right? And I think like going forward, what we're going to do is we're going to have to create some kind of registry, right, to sort of like segment these uh, to segment guilds as they're and to differentiate them from just individual players, right? Because it's as an economic unit of account, like the guilds are going to be really really important to track, right? And and so we may be asking, I think like in the future, like there's definitely going to be room for actually creating not only an open line of communication between the guilds and our staff to just sort of figure out like for the statistical for the statistical measurement of guilds and their contribution to the economy, but also there's room for individual players themselves to fill out like in your player profiles, right? To actually fill out what country of origin that you are from, right? And like when you self-select, right, like when you actually list that data for us, it makes it a lot easier for us to be able to start to study the links that occur like from like real economies into the metaverse, right? And because our players come from so many different countries, we're able to it'll help us to tease out any important economic relationships that exist between a country's macro fundamentals and our own metaverse economy. So and that's my request to the community. If you guys could just put the country that you're from, that would be really helpful because we expect, we I did an independent analysis, right? And I figured out that maybe 10% of our users are using a VPN. Now, I'm hoping that share goes up in the future, right? I want more of our users to use VPNs. But in light of that, like we're going to need, you know, it would be really helpful if guys just listed what country you're coming from. Um, and back if we could just go back to the guild situation. Um, yeah, I'm not exactly sure like how yet we're gonna approach this, but I think that like even for the next report, having a section dedicated to studying the guilds and their economic contribution will be incredibly important, right? And they are like in our Star Atlas universe SA census table, for example. I would love to have a section there on guilds, right? And be able to differentiate them from normal economic players because like the actions of a group is obviously going to be different than the actions of just like individual players. So thank you for that, and we are thinking about that.
All of it's data driven in what we do report. So it will be how we can capture. If we can't capture it, folks, we're not going to put it in the report. If we can't feel very comfortable about it, and your question is on point, and we thank you for it. So hopefully we'll be able to get some more data. If not, it won't be in there. Just letting don't want expectations high and us not be able to fulfill them for you guys.
Okay, guys. One last question because we're already in the hour, and I see the calendars from Eric and Steven, and they have a call. So one last question from Jima. Jima, you got to take my friend. I saw you posting on the Atlas Brew chat, and then we can finish. So go ahead, Jima. Not sure if Jima is here.
He's
Jima,
typing.
my friend. We'll
Hey,
contact
can you
you.
hear me? Sorry.
Okay. Yeah,
My
now we
my
can.
my button was not set. I was at the voice activation
Oh,
constantly on the
no,
other.
no worries. It happens. It happens. Go ahead, my friend.
Okay. So I was going over the paper. I mean, it of course takes a little longer to read the whole thing, and also try to understand some of the equations over here. I was looking at some of the charts, and I was at the page 21. Which is pretty much talking about how the amount of ships that were being used in score declined, and then after Atlas price fell down, specifically the female air bike got picked up by the community a lot, and because the Atlas the price went down, some of the ships that were being sold with Atlas by Star Atlas, the prices went down. So my question is, um, if you remember a couple months ago, there was a talk about all the ships being sold just 100% Atlas, and by looking at the concluding totes, which over here, it says that the cost of flood reinvestment in Atlas earning, which raised business fixed investments and increased economic potential output. This led to a halt in economic slowdown and start of a new. It's a start of a new economy to recover. Now, will Star Atlas, especially the new ships that are coming, will you guys consider making them 100% Atlas so that it will help Atlas in a way, or is the current economy of USDC and Atlas going through does that still work? And if you guys decide to go 100% Atlas, depending on how Atlas price change, it could go up like super high prices on some of the ships, and it could go even way lower. I was just wondering, what's the next step for the ship sales in terms of whether it's full Atlas or USDC and Atlas again.
Sure. For now, we don't have any plans to change that I'm aware of. Okay, it would stay. There's always discussions internally that could change those, and this is maybe more of a Michael level question on some of the strategy of the company on how we're going to list these that we would have internally. So, there are reasons for the way it's set up currently, and it's worked pretty well. What we talked about was the user behavior changing based on the market dynamics that happened, because obviously if you were here in November, December, you remember a different crypto macro and economy than what we've seen over the last, not to sidestep your question, but I just don't think that we have any new conclusions to say that we would do it any different. There are good reasons why we've done it this way, and it's been successful so far. We also will say that we do anticipate, more players coming into our environment, and we want to make sure that there are ships available for those people when they arrive.
Yeah, so I don't have. Yeah, I'm like Eric here, where like this is more just like a executive level decision, right? But I think that in the future, like there's definitely as of right now, we are going like the USDC route for many of the ships, but it is partial. It is partial, right? So like it is that like some, maybe like the first wave will be USDC, the second wave will be Atlas. There has been a mix of Atlas and USDC, and we have seen, we've definitely seen some like a difference, between the two markets, right? And I I think as Eric said, like I don't know what we're gonna do in the future, right? But I think like from a philosophical point of view, like the economy will be. We would like to think that everything will be an Atlas one day, right? And that like maybe that day's not today, but like in the future for Atlas or for Star Atlas to be a sustainable metaverse economy, things will have to like the economy will have to generate its own growth, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with well, part of that infrastructure will be that the assets within the metaverse will be priced in Atlas.
Can I have a follow-up question on that?
I think our guys have to go. I see
I,
they
I
have calls.
understand.
So yeah, just sorry, but
Unfortunately,
yeah,
guys, this was fun, man.
yeah. Any closing thoughts, Eric and Steven?
Just amazement of how awesome this community is to bring these high level questions to us and put us on the hot seat. You did really well at the whole hot seat thing, but you made us feel comfortable and welcome. Such a welcoming, supportive community, and that's what that's been fun for all of us. Hopefully, you enjoyed the first iteration of this and you found it to be what we intended it to be, which was a historical document to start it off in a good retrospect and um, hopefully it gives you more detailed, more understanding of the game, but also the actual economy. I had somebody ask me, about this metaverse economy and kind of poo-pooing it as a family member would sometimes do, and I'm sure you guys have been there. And I told them I'm getting very quickly I'm stopping to thinking of it as a metaverse economy. I'm just thinking of it as economy, just economy. It is part of what it's just a different way of interacting in my mind. And yes, there's differences. It's just the same as the first time there were railroads, the first time there was computers, the first time there were internet and faxes and phones and updates. This is just an update to the way economy works, in my mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, go
absolutely.
for it.
And so it's just like my concluding thought is that for the guilds out there listening, I would love an open channel of communication just for the statistical purposes, just to understand what you guys are doing and your strategies and things like that. Just so that we can understand the economy better, right? And if you guys are willing to give us feedback about things that you're doing, like from any aspect of it, like programmatically or certain strategies or whatever you're doing, we would love that feedback, and just to have an open line of communication so that when we write these reports we are accurate and we're actually beneficial to and the things that we write keep, hopefully remain beneficial to the community.
Thank you, man. Yeah, we can work on that. Don't worry about it. And yeah, just some closing thoughts from my side is I just want to speak in the name of the whole community and say thank you, Steven and Eric, for your work, and thank you so much as well for being here and taking the time to speak directly with us, with the community, and answer questions. It's really a game changer, and I think it's one of the things that make Star Atlas special and the Star Atlas community to really trust in what we are doing, and so everybody understands. And yeah, it's just really appreciated, and I think I am speaking in the name of the whole community by saying thank you guys, thank you for joining today.
Yeah, guys, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to
It was a
have you
pleasure.
here.
I'm going to jump now, guys. Got to get to another meeting, but pleasure meeting you all and interacting. Look forward to working with you all in the future.
See you, my friend. Thank you
Thank you
guys
Guys.
for
very
joining.
much.
Thank you as
Thank you
well,
for your hard
Steven.
work. Thank you, Santi.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, just this was the Atlas Brew number 20. We had two very special guests. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you received some more insight on the economy report and you may understand a little bit better how everything is working and how this core economy and the Atlas economy evolved until today. So thank you so much, guys, for joining. This was the Atlas Brew, empowered to the people.
And stick to the man. See you
And
guys.